12 things that we might not know about Ukraine, from Kiron Reid.
Thank you. Well, you know a lot more now about Ukraine than you did before Eurovision, but I hope to tell you some things that you might not know. I've spent 6 months living and working in Ukraine over the last 3 years, first as an international election monitor, as an election observer, and secondly as an honorary volunteer visiting professor at Zaporizhzhia National University in southeast Ukraine. You have the Golden Domes, you have all the Soviet and Russian influence, but Ukraine is also a modern country with lots to offer. There is a war in Ukraine, but it is only in 10% of the country, only in parts of these two regions in the far southeast where Russian forces occupy 5% of the country. Some traditions in Ukraine might seem old-fashioned. The Vyshyvanka shirt is happily worn by young and old alike on various national days in male and female versions. Universities are quite like universities in the UK, but they are still very Soviet, very top-down, less independent learning. And we don't have official Miss University contests involving the female students parading in their swimwear. I missed the bodybuilding version of the male equivalent, but the students are very involved in creative activities. They have giant shopping malls, more in the city I was in first than in Liverpool. They've got big supermarkets and small, but everything is in Cyrillic, or what they call Cyrillic, so I often buy the wrong thing by mistake because I'm not very good at my Cyrillic alphabet. There is good tea and coffee everywhere, which is ironic because they think there'll be good tea and coffee in England. They have much better leaf tea in Ukraine. Even in this little town of Savron, 200 kilometers north of Odessa, where a ship's officer, of course, recently returned from Liverpool, stopped me to give me directions. And in the wonderful city of Odessa itself, on Deripaskaya Street, the poshest McDonald's I've ever been to serves good quality leaf tea. But just like all those foreigners on the continent, if you buy the tea in tea bags, it's generally terrible. Cars and roads. You see every type of expensive German or Japanese car. You see the 4x4 SUVs with blacked out windows standard. You see Soviet cars in pristine condition. And given that the roads outside the cities are absolutely terrible, it is, of course, the old Soviet cars that do much better on them. So Ukraine has all these influences. It is Russian, Soviet, it is modern Ukrainian, it is Eastern and Central European. There are some Ukrainian national myths being created. There are some extreme nationalists in Ukraine, but very few. Most people are friendly and welcoming. Communist symbols have been banned, or more specifically, the symbols of totalitarian regimes have been banned. So the big Lenin statue in Zaporizhzhia was removed last year. I argued that they should keep it because it's great for tourists, but Lenin is gone. Lenin Prospect, Lenin Avenue, has been renamed Cathedral Avenue. But you still have the Soviet architecture. You have war memorials like here from lots of conflicts, but the huge volumes of names from the World War II, the Great Patriotic War, or the Afghanistan War are very sobering. Food might surprise you. Yes, they have borscht, they do have Kievsky cutlet, chicken Kiev, they have salads, they have sausage and cheese. They eat dried fish with beer, which I think is quite strange. But they're obsessed with pizza, with Italian, with kebab, with shawarma and shashlik, and sushi. There are more sushi restaurants than you could possibly imagine. But eating out is expensive. Some restaurants are very expensive, so most people eat at home or in picnics. Vodka, or Herika in Ukrainian, is complemented by the very good brandy. They call it all cognac. But you never drink alone, and you always eat when you're drinking. And I do advise not to get into the many rounds of toasts. Best avoided. Some things are as expensive as here, but many things are much cheaper. The cost of living is about a quarter of the price, but salaries for comparable professionals are about 1/8 of the salaries, so many professionals have to have 2 or 3 jobs. But that means for us that Ukraine is very inexpensive to go and visit. You can fly from London on British Airways, on Ukrainian International Airlines, or now on Ryanair as well. So if you want to see Ukraine, I recommend it. do go and see for yourself. Ukraine is not just for Eurovision. Thank you.